And in my view, I think we've been discussing saying why can't we have different models, and why can't we move from an awareness-based model to an experience-based model, right? And I think somewhere obviously a lot of reluctance from everyone saying TV is the cheapest. Yeah, we believe it engages the most. And therefore, when I heard about this try ruling, yeah, I said, thank God. Okay, I think finally, I think people will wake up, and perhaps people will start understanding why experience is so critical. And maybe the last thing that was holding people back was this whole efficiency norm, right? Because this one's going to see a very, very tectonic shift. I don't think you're going to have marketers who are going to be having the money to actually expand their budgets. And therefore, people will be thinking differently. You'll be forced to think differently. And therefore, I think that's exactly how we're going to look at it. I'm anyway quite a non-TV guy. Yeah, and for me, I think this will actually be a great stimulus in terms of really pushing Mindshare and other agencies to start telling me how can we get more efficiencies out of the non-TV mediums, yeah? Till now, I think one of the biggest challenges has been, we know it's working, we have all these statistics with us, people are spending time on YouTube, the 90s don't actually go and watch television, but finally what comes in the way is how do you really measure the impact of what you're doing in non-TV. And I do believe that's going to be a great change that I am at least expecting in the industry. We will start investing in measuring the effectiveness of our investments in other medium. And I think that's going to be a nice catalyst for seeing spends moving from the single TV medium to the multi-visual medium, yeah? So that's my take.
I think I'm going to be recording this one, but I'm going to take this back to them and
And please pay us a commission.
Yeah, definitely, yes. Okay.
Srini has to negotiate on our behalf, yeah? So.
Yeah, sure.
And the quality of measurement that you said, it's not engagement, it's the quality of engagement.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you'll get all of that actually on digital, so I don't think you need to worry. Okay, first of all, guys, I was just, looking at what I was having in my hand and what Srini and Sanjeev are having in their hand. Both of them are carrying a tablet and I'm carrying a paper and a pen. So obviously there's something really dramatically, something that I need to change first, yeah, in terms of being a Googler versus all of you actually not working in the digital space. Having said that, I'm going to respond to this from a media planner's perspective because that's a business I worked in for 2 decades before I moved to Google. One of the things that happened after I moved to Google from Madison is that you actually unlearn a lot of things that you've learned, in the last 2 decades. So yes, with 10+2, I think efficiencies are going to go down and effectiveness has to go up, right? Because for the same money, you actually you're going to buy lesser, and therefore it has to work that much more harder to get the clients and the brands to where they want to be. So I'm going to talk about 4 things that all of us know, okay? And the things I've unlearned, because I think we need to unlearn this before we actually start thinking multi-screen planning, irrespective of what happens in the environment, be it 10+2 or whatever. The first thing is reach, right? All of us live day in and day out thinking reach. How many of you would do plans less than a 50% reach for any of your clients, irrespective of whether they're selling 1 million units or whether they're selling 1 billion units, right? So the fact of it is that I think the first thing we need to unlearn is this thing of planning mass reach. Anything that we want to do has to be 50 at 3+, or 60 at 3+, or 60 at 5+. I don't think we're comfortable doing, 10% at 5+, or 10% at 3+, right? Because we find safety in numbers. One of the things that we looked at when we were trying to actually build a case for internet is that today you're talking about 150 million internet users in the country, and you're talking about YouTube being about 50 million of that, right? And if you look at most brands today, I don't even think they have user bases that are more than 10 or 20 or 30 million. But we still want to go after a medium that gives you 500 million, vis-a-vis, for example, looking at the low-hanging fruit that's probably on digital. And therefore, I think we need to unlearn the way we define reach. Yeah, that's the first thing. The second thing is that let's look at frequency. All of us, if you started as early as I did, started with average frequency and then moved to effective frequency. The reason we looked at effective frequency was that you said that I need to expose my consumer a minimum of 3 times, and then you got all these optimizers that came in that said how you can minimize spillover beyond 3+, 4+, 5+, whatever you were chasing. The fact of the matter is in digital today, you can exactly target a consumer an exact number of times, right? So I look at, let's say, 10% reach, and I want to reach that audience, let's say, only 3 times with my communication. I think digital enables you to do that. So suddenly, this concept of effective frequency actually gets totally diluted, because effective frequency was a protection to ensure that your consumer was exposed to a certain number of times. Digital actually gives you the bandwidth to expose them exact number of times, right? That's the second thing. So you unlearn reach, you unlearn effective frequency the way you know it, and you actually learn exact frequency that you want to target it at. The third thing, what we're all comfortable is with GRPs, right? I mean, all of us say 500 GRP, 600 GRP, 700 GRPs and stuff like that. Again, let's understand where GRPs come from. GRPs come from the fact of a probability of exposure to a consumer, right? When you're saying 500 GRPs, you're hoping that you're going to reach the consumer or whatever. You need to give 500 exposures for a campaign in order for that campaign to work, right? That happens because you really do not know how many people watched a TV ad. I mean, today, for example, we do get TVRs that say a TV ad, for example, let's say a Dove ad or whatever it is, gets 0.5 TVRs, but we really do not know if that person watched that 30-seconder because it's a meter recording it, right? You have concepts like TrueView today on YouTube, and I hope most of you know what it is, where you actually pay only if your consumer has seen at least 30 seconds of your ad, right? So suddenly, it is a question of, are you going to chase probability of exposure through a GRP, or are you going to chase guaranteed exposure? So do you need still 500 GRPs on your plan because you were chasing a probability? And because now GRPs are going to be guaranteed, are you going to look at, let's say, a 100 GRP plan because that's 100 guaranteed exposures to your communication that's actually going to happen by being on digital, right? So that was reach, frequency, GRPs. Let's look at the fourth thing, which is creatives, right? All of us are used to a 30-second creative. When you're sitting in front of a television set, you have no option but, you know, look at that 30-second unless you're fast forwarding it, or, I mean, unless you're actually channel hopping or something like that. Today on YouTube, you run a 30-seconder, I can skip the ad in 5 or 6 seconds after the ad is being telecast, which means the first 6 seconds start to matter as much, for example, the last 5 seconds of the communication, where you normally have your brand and brand proposition and the baseline coming in and stuff like that. So to me, I think 10+2 is a great trigger, but I think the multi-screen explosion is really going to happen when we start to unlearn certain things that all of us have in our blood. You know, today, you wake me in my sleep, I will still do a 58 5+ plan. I would never do a 10+ exactly 3 times plan. So I think that's where I think the fundamentals need to change in terms of how we are looking at things, you know, for the multi-screen explosion to actually happen.
Thanks. So I think to sum up the first part, I think all of us agree that 10+2 is a great trigger, but I think there are reasons beyond that because of which you know, multi-screen planning is anyway important. And Punita, thanks especially to you. I think for all of you young media planners, you can't get a better 5-minute capsule on media planning than what you heard from Punita. So special thanks to you. And whenever you have free time, please drop by. So you can do some training for us.
Actually, I've told Vidya this. So I said I'm missing doing media planning so much. I told Vidya, please, when you're working on one of your pitches, call me. I would love to work on it. So.
Okay. No, not anymore, I hope. Okay, so there was there was also talk about metrics and measurement and this whole issue of efficiency and effectiveness. I'd like to ask our 2 clients before I get to Punita and Sanjeev specifically on metrics. And Harpreet, I know starting with you, you guys have gone to digital in I would say a big way compared to a lot of other clients. And what made you take the plunge initially? I mean.
So I think it's just building up on her point, right? I mean, if you look at a portfolio of brands today, I have a user franchise of not more than 1 lakh. And suddenly I get a plan saying, okay, let me go and hit 4+, 50%. And I'm wondering, that's almost like half of India. And I just say 1 lakh, right? Okay, and therefore very, very clearly starts from there, I think. So I think once you're very clear in terms of who's your TG, and you actually understand your TG's media habits, I think you start creating plans in a far more efficient and effective way. And I think that's one of the triggers. And I think that's my one single message to my team and even to the media planners on my team, is stop chasing these norms that have been set in your mind. Start thinking as a consumer, as a shopper. Start seeing where your brand's really going, and then let's chase that consumer. Yeah, TV is not the holy grail. Yeah.
Satiki, what's been your experience? I mean, how do you know something has worked on digital?
This is the most difficult part, I think. I think on TV, because the medium is old and there's so many of you who measure it very well and who are experts at it, we get some measurement. Nowadays, we are told that some of these measurements are not right, so we believe you again. But you know, on the net, I think it's still a bit of a gray area. We were first told, and we are not exactly the net generation, that you know, however many people like you, you're super good. Then they said no, people talking about you. Then, you know, I'm sure it's evolving, and now people talk about engagement, and we have these agencies also where people are 24, 25, and they know a lot more than I do. But what I understand is it's still very difficult to measure the quality of engagement, and that's what I was trying to tell Punita just now, that you know, it's not only about engagement, it's also about quality of engagement, and hence to see, I think finally Matrix, if you ask, that was the first question. I think it has to be ROI driven. Finally, there has to be ROI at the end of the day when you put money. But I think Harpreet said it right, that we need to start thinking as human beings. We need to stop thinking like machines. We have to think like shopper, the consumer, and how and where we reach them. So if you look at my brands, then you'll see that digital is a much bigger part of Maybelline, which is a younger brand, which has lesser distribution, which is more targeted, etc., etc. And on a Garnier, I think TV is more, and that will change over a period of time. In any case, it's going to change. 10+2 will make it faster, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Sanjeev, we keep talking about engagement, and one of your favorite terms, I notice, is sustained engagement. So can you just explain to our all of us and our young planners as to why do you think digital is a better medium for sustained engagement over TV or anything?
You know, I think the first thing is that I've been trying to find an articulation of what's changed. You know, we've got television where you connected with people in a particular way, and now you've got digital where you're going to connect with people in a different way from the way you've connected with them on TV. So I think it's important to understand is that it's still going to be an ideas business. It's just that the kind of ideas needed to get people on digital platforms excited are going to be different from the ideas that got them excited using television. So to me, it's still a creative business. It's about understanding your consumer, understanding his motivations, and then going to him with an engagement strategy that is relevant to the platform he's on. I'd just like to read something, you know, somebody's done an articulation of what has changed, and I thought that was very interesting, it's, you know, we moved from the attention economy to the attraction economy, and so it says the attention economy picked interruption, and we all know that. The attraction economy picks attraction. The attention economy picked one to many. The attraction economy picks many to one. The attention economy was reactive. The attraction economy is interactive. The attention economy believed in return of investment. It's still ROI, but the attraction economy believes in return of involvement. The attention economy relied on heavy users. The attraction economy relies on inspirational consumers. The attention economy relied on big promises. The attraction economy relies on intimate gestures. The attention economy was marketing at consumers. The attraction economy connects with people. The attention economy had consumers. The attraction economy has people. The attention economy had brands. The attraction economy has love marks. And I think that's the important part, is that we need to become the fabric, you know, we need to enter the fabric of that consumer's mind. We already have, you know, Google telling us what they're looking for. We have a fair amount of insight into what he's thinking about, what are his interests, what makes a difference in his life. And then each brand is going to have that, that little niche, whether it's going to be health or nutrition or beauty or music or happiness, whatever it might pick, whatever is relevant to that brand influence, and then play a role in engaging that consumer. Because again, content of the future is going to be very different from content of the past. Content of the past was 5 wise men in a room saying, you know, I'm going to get TRPs with this program. Content of the future is saying, can I create a conversation, and once I create that conversation, can I provoke content from within that conversation? So I think the whole way of looking at engaging with consumers, there's a dramatic shift, and I think that's going to be the big one. And back to what you asked, sustained. It's not strategic. It's not the summer's here, so I'm going to do this. It's about saying, well, I understand this guy. I'm going to play a role in his life. And if you're going to play a role in his life, it has to be sustained. It's not about doing, something this week and changing the strategy next week.
If the future is all about sustained engagement, what is Google, as a company and as a big player in the digital space doing to your advertisers? I mean, anything you guys that you've got lined up in terms of metrics, measurement, or anything else which is going to be new? Since you started off as a search company and once upon a time employed only geeks and spoke only algorithms, and now it's all about content, it's video. So, I mean, how are you guys traversing this path, and what's in store for us?
I think the problem that happened with us in terms of metrics is that we started with search, which was such a harsh metric that you actually had to chase, be it in terms of CPCs or CPAs or whatever it is. Now, the thing is, what has happened is that I think the larger public at large expects that metric to translate into everything that you're doing, which is be it YouTube or be it whatever. So there are two ways, Srini, we are looking at it. And I think this is a dilemma that we are facing on whether the online metrics should come closer to the offline metrics, or whether, for example, on online, we still keep it as a different metrics and see if the offline metric should actually be chasing that online metric. So let me first look at the first part of it, which is how are we, I mean, since all of us are very comfortable with certain terminologies and the way we define certain terms,